Captain Tay of the Earth Diplomatic Corps stepped off his shuttle onto the gleaming floor of Stellar Station 6. The tall, spindly aliens around him, the Na'vi, kept a noticeable distance. Their blue-green skin reflected the bright lights of the arrival bay, making them seem to shimmer as they moved. Each Na'vi stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 long arms and large, dark eyes that watched Tay with obvious curiosity and caution. "Welcome, human Tay," said Ambassador Doe, his translator converting the series of clicks and whistles into smooth human speech. "We are cautious but honored by your presence." The translator device on Doe's chest glowed softly as it worked. The ambassador's head tilted at an angle that suggested careful study of the human before him. Tay smiled and gave a small bow. "The honor is mine, Ambassador Doe. Earth looks forward to peaceful relations with the Na'vi collective." The human diplomat stood out sharply against the station's sterile environment. While the Na'vi wore simple, flowing garments that seemed to merge with their skin, Tay's blue Earth diplomatic uniform with its gold trim seemed almost garish by comparison. He was the first human many of these aliens had seen in person, though images of Earth and its people had been shared during initial contact procedures. As they walked through the wide, curved corridors of the station, Tay noticed the breathing apparatus each Na'vi wore, a small transparent device that covered their breathing slits. Their homeworld had practically no toxins or pollutants, unlike Earth. The air on the station was similarly pure, processed and filtered constantly to meet the Na'vi's exacting standards. "Our biology is quite different," Doe explained, noticing Tay's gaze. "Your lungs are remarkably robust compared to our respiratory filters. Even the minor particles your kind considers safe would cause us distress." Tay nodded in understanding. Humans have learned to adapt to many environments, some not by choice. The station itself was a marvel of engineering. Curved walls flowed into arched ceilings, creating spaces that felt both open and secure. Plants from various worlds grew in carefully maintained beds throughout the walkways, their strange colors and shapes making Earth vegetation seem plain by comparison. "Your quarters have been prepared with human needs in mind," Doe explained as they passed through a busy central hub. Other aliens, not just Na'vi, paused in their activities to observe the human. Some moved away, others leaned closer in curiosity. "We've adjusted the gravity, temperature, and air composition based on Earth standard parameters." "Thank you for your consideration," Tay replied. He had trained for this mission for 3 years, learning everything available about Na'vi culture and biology. Yet being here in person made all the difference. The subtle movements of their eye membranes, the way their fingers constantly adjusted to their surroundings, these were details no training video could fully capture. They entered a transport tube that whisked them to the diplomatic section of the station. The tube's walls were transparent, offering a spectacular view of the space outside. 3 different vessels were currently docked: a massive Na'vi ship, a trading vessel from the Krell system, and Tay's much smaller Earth shuttle. "Tomorrow you'll meet the Council," Doe explained as they exited the tube. "They're eager to discuss the border situation. The asteroid belt between our territories has significant mineral deposits that could benefit both our peoples. Earth seeks cooperation, not confrontation," Tay assured him. "Our mining techniques might be useful to you, while your environmental preservation methods would be valuable to us." Doe's skin changed shade slightly, a sign of agreement Tay recalled from his training. "Here are your quarters. The communication panel is programmed to accept Earth standard. Please rest and prepare for tomorrow's meeting." Tay thanked the ambassador and entered his assigned room. The door slid shut behind him with a soft hiss. The space was larger than he expected, with strange furniture clearly designed based on human specifications, but with Na'vi aesthetic sensibilities. The sleeping platform looked comfortable enough, though higher than a standard Earth bed. He set down his small travel case and moved to the window that dominated one wall. The view of space was breathtaking. The nearby gas giant planet that housed the Na'vi homeworld on one of its moons glowed a soft purple in the distance. What Tay didn't know, couldn't know, was that at that very moment, a small group of Na'vi officials were meeting in a secure chamber 3 levels below. "The human arrives at a sensitive time," Admiral Pack said, his voice a series of sharp clicks. We must be certain of their intentions before proceeding with any agreement. Their kind are from a dangerous world, Scientist Kim replied, manipulating a display that showed Earth's environmental data. They breathe toxins that would kill any of us instantly, which is precisely why we must test them, Admiral Pak concluded. The Council meeting tomorrow will provide the perfect opportunity to assess their true nature. Tay, unaware of these whispered conversations happening behind closed doors about testing his vulnerabilities, prepared his notes for tomorrow's supposedly peaceful diplomatic meeting. Admiral Han paced the secure chamber, his long blue fingers tapping against his leg. The room was deep within Stellar Station 6, with walls that blocked all signals and sounds. 5 other Na'vi sat around a circular table, their skin colors shifting with their emotions. Humans are unpredictable, Han said, stopping to activate a display screen. Images of Earth appeared, smoke-filled cities, war zones, extreme weather events. Their planet should be uninhabitable, radiation, pollution, extreme temperatures. Yet they not only survive, they build civilizations in these conditions. Scientist G adjusted her breathing apparatus and leaned forward. Which is precisely why they're dangerous, she replied. Her voice translated into clicks and whistles the others could understand. Their adaptations make them unpredictable. A species that can breathe toxins might have other surprising abilities. Admiral Han nodded, his head bobbing in the sharp, quick motion that indicated concern among the Na'vi. The human Tay seems peaceful enough, but we've been deceived before. The Krell appeared friendly until they took control of 3 outer stations. Earth has a history of expansion, added Security Director Bay. They spread across their own planet rapidly, often at the expense of other species or their own kind. G brought up new images on the display. A small container rotated slowly, filled with a grey substance that seemed to move like slow smoke. We have options. My team has analyzed human biology from the samples gathered during their arrival processing. They are remarkably similar to other carbon-based life forms in basic structure. So we use the mist of terrors during negotiations, Han decided after studying the display. It subdued every dangerous species we've encountered. It targets the fear centers of the brain. All intelligent life has them. If the human reacts peacefully even under its influence, we can trust their diplomatic intentions. Director Bay's skin darkened with concern. The Council hasn't approved this measure. This could create a diplomatic incident if discovered. Better a diplomatic problem than a security threat, Han replied firmly. I take full responsibility. The mist leaves no trace after 6 hours. The human will never know, and neither will Ambassador Du or the Council. G nodded in agreement. I can modify the chamber's air filtration system to release the mist during the humans' presentation. We'll all be affected, but our species has been inoculated against the worst effects. It will merely make us uncomfortable while allowing us to observe the humans' true nature. Make the preparations, Han ordered. The meeting begins in 14 hours. Test the human, protect our people, that's our duty. In another part of the station, Officer Sun moved quietly through the security center. Her job was monitoring communications and data transfer across Stellar Station 6. She had noticed unusual activity, sealed orders, restricted lab access, modifications to the Council chamber systems that weren't on the official schedule. Sun's curiosity led her to dig deeper, bypassing security protocols she wasn't meant to access. What she found alarmed her. Plans to use the mist of terrors, a controlled substance normally restricted to extreme security situations, during tomorrow's diplomatic meeting. This can't be right, she whispered to herself, her translator off as she worked alone in the dim light of her station. Sun had studied Earth culture during her training. While humans had a violent history, so did most species. The diplomatic corps wouldn't have sent Captain Tay if they intended harm. She downloaded the information to a secure device and left her post, moving quickly through the station's less traveled corridors toward the diplomatic quarters. The human deserved a warning at least. This wasn't how the Na'vi treated guests. Sun had almost reached the diplomatic section when she rounded a corner and found herself face to face with 2 security officers in Admiral Han's direct command. Officer Sun, the taller one said, his skin shifting to a dark purple of suspicion. "You're far from your assigned section." "I have information for Ambassador Doe," she lied smoothly, trying to step past them. The second guard blocked her path. "At this hour? With a data device that's emitting unauthorized security signatures?" Sun knew she was caught. "This is wrong," she said firmly. "The diplomatic protocols—" "Come with us," the first guard interrupted, taking her arm. "Admiral Han would like to speak with you." 20 minutes later, Sun stood before Han in the same secure chamber where he had outlined his plan earlier. Her device had been confiscated, its contents already reviewed. "Your concern for protocol is admirable," Han said, his voice deceptively gentle. "But you don't understand the larger picture. We cannot use fear weapons on diplomatic guests." Sun argued. "It violates every principle of—" "The human must be tested," Han insisted, cutting her off, "for the safety of all. If Captain Tay is truly peaceful, he will pass the test and never know it happened. If not, we will have protected our people from a potential threat." Sun's skin paled to a light blue of distress. "And what happens to me?" "You'll be confined to quarters until after tomorrow's council meeting," Han replied, "for attempting to interfere with station security. A minor infraction that won't damage your career if you remain silent about what you've learned." As Officer Sun was led away to comfortable but secure quarters, Admiral Han turned to Ji. "Proceed with the preparations. Tomorrow we'll know exactly what kind of creature we're dealing with." In his quarters, Captain Tay slept peacefully, unaware of the test that awaited him or the officer who had tried to warn him. The Grand Council chamber was the pride of Stellar Station 6. Its circular design featured rising tiers of seats surrounding a central speaking platform. The ceiling arched high above, dotted with lights that mimicked the stars visible through the massive viewing windows. Representatives from 12 different worlds sat in their designated sections, each species with specially designed accommodations for their unique biology. Captain Tay entered alongside Ambassador Doe. The human wore his formal Earth diplomatic uniform, dark blue with silver trim that caught the light as he moved. He carried a small data tablet but no weapons. He had been thoroughly scanned before entry, as was standard procedure. "The Council recognizes Captain Tay of Earth," announced the elderly Na'vi who served as Chief Counselor. Her skin had faded to a pale blue-green with age, and her movements were slow but deliberate. "You may present your case regarding the disputed asteroid belt." Tay bowed respectfully before stepping onto the central platform. From this position, he could see all the council members, the four-armed Na'vi, the gelatinous Buell representatives, who floated in specialized tanks, the insectoid Krell with their clicking mandibles and others. Admiral Han sat in the security section, his posture rigid. Scientist Ji occupied a seat nearby, monitoring a small device hidden in her palm. Neither looked at the other, maintaining the appearance that nothing unusual was planned. "Honored representatives," Tay began, his voice clear and steady. "Earth, thanks you for this opportunity. The asteroid belt at the borders of our territories represents not a problem but an opportunity for mutual benefit." He activated a holographic display showing the belt, thousands of rocks rich with minerals rotating slowly between two star systems. "We seek cooperation, not confrontation," he explained, gesturing to specific clusters. "Earth has mining techniques that can extract resources without destroying the asteroids themselves. This preserves them as natural shields against radiation and micrometeorites, which benefits all nearby systems." The council members leaned forward with interest. This was not the aggressive approach some had expected from the human. Even Admiral Han looked momentarily uncertain. "Furthermore," Tay continued, "Earth proposes a joint monitoring station that would—" Admiral Han made his decision. He pressed a concealed button on his wrist device. Around the chamber, hidden vents silently opened in the walls and floor. The council members would see these as standard climate control features. Only Han, Ji, and a few security personnel knew their true purpose. A thin gray mist began seeping into the room. It spread slowly, nearly invisible except when it caught the light just right. The alien delegates noticed first. The mist of terrors was calibrated to work on all known sentient species, triggering their deepest fears while leaving them conscious, enough to react. The bull representatives' gelatinous bodies rippled with distress. The Krell's mandibles clicked rapidly in alarm. The Na'vi Council members' skin changed to dark colors of fear and shock. Several of the more sensitive species collapsed entirely. A Lumin representative fell from their perch, their light-based body flickering erratically. Others froze in place, trembling or making sounds of distress. Ambassador Du struggled to maintain composure, but his breathing apparatus whined as his respiratory rate increased dramatically. His eyes showed confusion and betrayal. He had not been informed of the plan. In the center of it all, Captain Tay paused mid-sentence as the mist swirled around him. He looked down, watching it curl around his boots and rise up past his uniform. His expression registered mild surprise, nothing more. He sniffed the air carefully, then looked around at the panicking council members with growing concern. "Is something wrong?" he asked, seemingly genuinely confused by the sudden chaos in the chamber. Admiral Han stared in disbelief. The human should be experiencing terrifying hallucinations by now. He should be seeing his worst fears made manifest, perhaps collapsing or becoming violent. Instead, Tay stood calmly, looking concerned for others rather than himself. Scientist G frantically checked her monitoring device. "It's working," she whispered to Han. "The mist is at full potency. He should be affected." Tay sniffed the air again, more deliberately this time. A look of recognition crossed his face, followed by something unexpected. A slight smile. "Smells like home, actually," he said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Like downtown Seoul. On a Tuesday." He stepped down from the platform, moving toward a Na'vi counselor who had fallen from their seat. "Are you ill?" Tay asked, kneeling beside the alien. "Should I call for medical assistance?" Admiral Han's translator struggled to find words for his shock. The human was not only unaffected by the mist of terrors, he found it familiar, even comforting. "Impossible," Han whispered. The chief counselor, fighting through her own fear response, managed to activate the chamber's emergency systems. Alarm lights flashed, and the air filtration systems engaged at maximum power. The mist began to dissipate, but the damage was done. Most representatives remained in states of panic or paralysis. "What has happened here?" the chief counselor demanded, her voice shaking as she struggled to regain control. Captain Tay was still helping fallen council members, seemingly the only one fully functional in the room, besides the security personnel who had been inoculated against the mist's effects. "I don't know," Tay replied honestly, "but something in the air seems to be affecting everyone except me." He paused, looking directly at Admiral Han. "Though I suspect someone here might have an explanation." The medical bay of Stellar Station 6 hummed with activity. 12 hours had passed since the incident in the council chamber. Most of the affected delegates had recovered, though some of the more sensitive species remained under observation. In a private examination room, Scientist G stood before a wall of displays showing detailed medical scans of human biology. "Impossible," G exclaimed, her skin flashing bright colors of frustration and scientific curiosity as she reviewed the medical scans. "The mist targets neurological fear centers. Every species has them." Her long fingers moved rapidly over the control panel, bringing up comparison charts between human brain scans and those of other species. Captain Tay sat calmly on an examination table, various monitoring devices attached to his arms and temples. He had voluntarily submitted to these tests after the chaos in the council chamber. Unlike the aliens who had been present, he showed no after-effects from exposure to the mist. His vital signs were normal, his neural patterns stable. "Let me guess. Your fear gas contains sulfur compounds, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter," Tay asked, watching G's reactions carefully. G's translator struggled with her surprised clicks. The device on her chest flashed rapidly, trying to convert her excited scientific speech into something Tay could understand. "How did you—" "Yes, those are the base components," G finally managed to say, "along with specialized neurochemical compounds that should bind to fear receptors in any carbon-based brain." Tay nodded, as if this confirmed something he had suspected. "That's basically what we breathe on Earth," he explained. his voice matter-of-fact rather than accusatory. "Our major cities had air quality like that for generations. We adapted." He gestured toward the brain scans on the display. "Your gas probably triggers fear responses by mimicking atmospheric conditions that would signal danger to most species, conditions that would mean poisonous air or industrial disaster. But for humans from certain regions and time periods, it's just Tuesday." G moved closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution around the human. "But the neurochemical components, probably similar to stress hormones humans produce, naturally during urban commutes," Tay suggested with a small smile. "When you grow up breathing pollution and dealing with daily stress, your brain adapts. What terrifies others becomes background noise." The door to the examination room slid open. Officer Sun entered, her uniform slightly wrinkled from her time in detention. She looked tired but determined. Admiral Han followed behind her, his posture stiff and his skin a muted grey of embarrassment and concern. "Officer Sun has been released from detention," Han announced formally. Her actions, while against protocol, were motivated by proper diplomatic concerns. Sun nodded to Tay. "I tried to warn you," she said simply. "I appreciate the attempt," Tay replied with genuine warmth, "though it seems I didn't need the warning as much as your colleagues did." "The Council is in uproar," Sun continued, moving further into the room. "Half think humans are monsters, half want alliance immediately. Your calm response during the incident has created quite an impression." Admiral Han's skin darkened slightly. "Some believe any species immune to the mist of terrors must be either without fear entirely, or so dangerous that fear is their natural state." "Not monsters," Tay corrected gently. "Just survivors." He removed the monitoring devices from his arms and stood up. "Humans feel fear, probably as deeply as any species here. But we've also learned to function despite it, sometimes even because of it." G's translator worked overtime as she spoke rapidly. "The implications for xenobiology are enormous. A species that adapts neurologically to environmental toxins could potentially be valuable allies," interrupted a new voice. Ambassador Do entered the room looking fully recovered from the mist's effects. Especially against threats that might use similar weapons, the ambassador approached Tay directly. "Captain, I had no knowledge of this test. It violates all our diplomatic protocols. The chief counselor has ordered a full investigation." Tay nodded in acknowledgement. "Earth understands caution, Ambassador. We've had our share of first contact mistakes. But next time, perhaps just ask about our environmental tolerances. We're quite open about our biology." "Admiral Han has been relieved of duty pending review," Do continued, glancing at the security officer, "and the Council wishes to resume negotiations tomorrow with new safety protocols in place." Han's posture remained rigid, but he faced Tay directly. "I acted to protect my people from a potential threat. I would do so again, though perhaps with different methods." "I understand duty, Admiral," Tay replied. "But consider this. If you had simply asked about human adaptations, you might have discovered a better way to protect your people. Through alliance rather than testing." Officer Sun stepped forward. "Captain Tay, if you're finished here, the Council has requested your presence. Many of the representatives wish to speak with you informally before tomorrow's session." "Of course," Tay agreed, moving toward the door. "They have questions about Earth," Sun explained as they walked, "about how humans can live in conditions that would kill most species, yet still build art, music, and peaceful diplomatic corps." Tay smiled slightly. "That's a long conversation, but the short answer is this. Sometimes the harshest environments produce the most determined survivors and the most eager dreamers." Behind them, G was already planning new research studies, while Admiral Han contemplated a galaxy where humans might become either the Na'vi's greatest allies or their most terrifying adversaries. The emergency council session began exactly 24 hours after the incident with the mist of terrors. The chamber had been thoroughly cleaned, its air scrubbed by the station's most powerful filters. Security protocols had been visibly increased, with guards at every entrance checking identification more carefully than usual. The 12 representatives took their places, their mood somber. Many still showed signs of their exposure to the mist. The bull delegates' tanks were tinted darker to help calm their still trembling forms, and the Krell representatives' mandibles were bound with soft restraints to prevent the nervous clicking. That had not stopped since the incident. Captain Tay entered last, escorted by both Ambassador Du and Officer Sun. The human appeared completely unaffected by yesterday's events. He wore his standard diplomatic uniform, his posture straight but relaxed. The chief counselor, her skin still showing faint traces of the fear-blue coloration, called the session to order. "We gather to address yesterday's security breach and to determine the path forward with Earth relations." All eyes turned to Admiral Han, who stood at attention before the council. His rank insignia had been removed, a visible sign of his suspended status. "The security test was unauthorized," the chief counselor continued. "However, the information it revealed cannot be ignored. We must understand the species with whom we consider alliance." She gestured to Tay. "Captain, would you address the council regarding human response to the fear agent?" Tay stepped forward, taking the central position where he had stood the day before. The circular platform raised slightly so all could see him clearly. "Honored representatives," he began, "I understand your concern. A species that does not react, as expected, to your security measures might seem dangerous or unpredictable." The council chamber remained silent, every delegate watching him intently. "Humans don't ignore fear," he explained, his voice calm but carrying to every corner of the room. "We acknowledge it, use it, sometimes even enjoy it. On Earth, we have entertainment called horror movies, where we pay to be frightened." Ambassador Do's translator struggled to convey the concept. The device blinked rapidly, searching for equivalent terms in Na'vi language. Several council members leaned toward their assistants, seeking clarification. "You deliberately seek fear?" asked the bull representative, their voice bubbling through the translation system. Tay nodded. "In safe contexts, yes. Fear can be a form of excitement, a way to feel more alive. But more importantly, we've learned to function despite fear, to make rational decisions even when afraid." He activated the display system, showing images of Earth cities from different time periods. Early industrial centers with smoke-filled skies, modern metropolises with clean air and greenery. "Your weapon smells like my childhood," Tay continued, pointing to the older images. "Earth was damaged before we fixed it. We carry that history in our bodies." The images shifted to show human environmental cleanup efforts, the restoration of damaged ecosystems, the transformation of industrial wastelands into parks and communities. Humans adapted to survive in harsh conditions, including ones we created ourselves, Tay explained. But adaptation doesn't mean we stopped feeling. It means we learned to use our feelings, including fear, as information rather than letting them control us. The Krell representatives' mandibles twitched against their restraints. "Does this mean humans cannot be deterred by threats?" "Not at all," Tay replied. "We respond to genuine threats, but we assess what is truly threatening rather than reacting instinctively. The gas you use triggers fear in most species because it mimics dangerous conditions. To humans from certain regions, it merely mimics home." Admiral Han, standing at the side of the chamber, watched with a complex expression. His skin showed patterns of suspicion mixed with reluctant respect. "And if we had used a different agent," Han asked, speaking out of turn, "something truly harmful?" "Then I would have responded appropriately to a real threat," Tay answered simply. "Earth does not seek conflict, Admiral. We seek partners who understand both our strengths and our priorities." The council members exchanged glances. The gelatinous bull rippled in what their kind recognized as thoughtful consideration. The insectoid Krell tapped complex patterns on their communication devices. Elder Choi, the oldest Na'vi on the council who had remained silent until now, leaned forward in her seat. Her age-paled skin shifted to a soft green of wisdom and consideration. "Perhaps," said Elder Choi, her voice carrying surprising strength, "we have much to learn from each other. A species that can face fear without being controlled by it could teach us much about resilience." Her words seemed to break the tension in the room. Several representatives nodded or made their species equivalent gestures of agreement. "I propose we continue negotiations as planned," the chief counselor announced, "with the understanding that we approach this relationship with new awareness of our differences and our potential complementary strengths." The vote that followed was not unanimous, but the majority supported continuing diplomatic relations with Earth. The session concluded with plans for detailed cultural exchange programs and joint scientific research. As Tai left the chamber, Officer E. Sun fell in step beside him. Her uniform now carried a small insignia indicating promotion. Her actions in attempting to prevent the incident had been recognized as honorable. "They're calling humans fear-eaters now," she said, her translator giving her words an amused tone. "It's spreading through the station. Some of the younger Na'vi think it's fascinating." Tai smiled. "Better than being called invaders, though neither is quite accurate." "What would be accurate?" Sun asked, genuinely curious. "Perhaps adapters," Tai suggested, "or simply neighbors, which is what we hope to become." The next 7 days passed in intensive negotiations, cultural exchanges, and scientific discussions. The asteroid belt agreement was finalized, with joint mining operations scheduled to begin within 6 months. Additional protocols for communication and emergency response were established, taking into account the biological differences between species. When he boarded his shuttle a week later, treaty signed and diplomatic channels established, Tai stood for a moment at the airlock. Officer Sun had come to see him off, along with Ambassador Do and several other Na'vi who had worked closely with him. "Safe journey, Captain," Sun said. "Return soon. There is much more to discuss." Tai nodded in agreement. As the airlock sealed and he moved into his shuttle, he took a final breath of the station's pristine air. For a moment, he almost missed the comforting smell of home, pollution and all. As his shuttle detached from Stellar Station 6, Tai smiled to himself. In his report to Earth, he would recommend increased diplomatic presence in this region. The Na'vi and their allies would make interesting neighbors indeed, especially now that they viewed humans not as monsters to be feared, but as survivors to be understood.